Linda's text jolted Ava's phone, a photograph of strangers with suitcases at her mother's door.
What the hell is this?
Within minutes, Ava was in her sedan, jaw locked, driving the 6 blocks to the family home. She parked opposite the driveway just as Rebecca swept out, beaming, and waved a young couple up the porch steps. Ava's gaze dropped to the front door, a silver lockbox clamped to the handle, and above it, a cheerful welcome sign she'd never seen before.
It's a vacation rental. She's renting out the house while Mom is upstairs in hospice.
Ava opened the Airbnb app on her phone and found it immediately. Charming basement suite, hosted by Rebecca.
Saturday and Tuesday check-ins. 6 months of bookings. She calculated the rent. $4,800 a month. She didn't feel anger yet, only a cold, absolute clarity. This would not stand.
Ava killed the engine, stepped out of the car, and walked straight toward the front door, her face an unreadable mask of control. The front door swung open onto a house that felt abruptly foreign. A laminated sign reading "Basement Guest Suite" was posted on the wall.
Right there. In Mom's house, with an arrow pointing downstairs.
A murmur of a television and a woman's light laugh rose from the basement door, still ajar.
6 months of reviews. Charming and private retreat, all while Mom's oxygen machine clicked through the night.
She turned from the basement door and climbed the stairs, the carpeted steps hushing her footfalls. Through the half-open door, the silhouette of the hospital bed and the rhythmic blink of monitors came into view.
Rebecca's PayPal must be swelling. $4,800 every month, and Mom is fighting for every breath.
The nurse stepped out, styrofoam cup in hand, and whispered that there was no change.
I can't let this stand. She's turned our home into a hotel while Mom's dying.
Ava stood there, the oxygen concentrator's hum filling the silence, and let the cold, absolute clarity settle into a plan. She stepped fully into the room. Margaret's skin was nearly translucent, but the monitors blinked with stubborn life.
Beside the bed, a photo of us at 6 and 9. I remember that day. I thought we'd be on the same side forever.
2 years earlier, Margaret had called her to a lawyer's office. No explanation, just an address and a time.
I'm making you the owner of the house, Ava. A quitclaim deed. I'll stay here, but when I'm gone, it's yours.
I was stunned. She'd never even mentioned it to Rebecca.
Margaret's signature was already dry on the paper. She slid it across the table.
I need you to promise me something. Whatever happens with your sister, this house is yours, not hers, not anyone else's.
I asked why, but she just squeezed my hand and said, "You'll understand one day." Today, I understood.
The memory released her. She turned from the bedside, jaw set, and walked into the hallway. She descended the stairs with the silent authority of a woman who knows exactly what she owns. Downstairs, the basement suite was staged with fresh towels and a chalkboard sign reading, "Enjoy your stay."
Excuse me. I'm the owner of this house, and the listing you booked is unauthorized.
The man's hand froze on the suitcase zipper. The woman's mouth opened, but no sound came.
You need to request a refund through Airbnb's host fraud channel right now. I'll walk you through it.
The woman fumbled for her phone, pulling up the Airbnb app with trembling fingers. 5 minutes later, the couple had filed a complaint, gathered their bags, and hurried up the stairs without looking back. Alone in the suite, Ava photographed the key lockbox, the guest book, and the rental brochure with a steady hand. Upstairs, she opened her laptop in the kitchen and began filling out Airbnb's formal fraud report. She attached the scanned quitclaim deed and added a photo of the notary's seal. Rebecca's name was nowhere on it.
Host had zero right to list this property. Deed attached. Submit.
2 hours later, an Airbnb email confirmed the listing had been removed and Rebecca's account flagged for fraud.
Swift justice. Now my sister will learn what happens when you monetize our mother's dying.
She settled into the living room sofa, laptop closed, and waited with the calm of a woman who had already won. 20 minutes later, the front door banged open and Rebecca's voice cut through the silence.
What did you do? My listing is gone. All my upcoming bookings canceled? I informed Airbnb that the host had no legal right to rent the property. They agreed. I deserve compensation for my emotional labor. Mom doesn't even use the basement. You have no right to sabotage me.
Ava's expression didn't flicker. She let Rebecca's tantrum settle before she spoke again.
The house isn't yours to rent, Rebecca. Mom transferred the deed to me 2 years ago. I own it.
Rebecca's face drained of color. Her mouth opened, but no words came, only a ragged, disbelieving breath.
That's a forgery. Mom would never transfer the house without telling me.
Ava turned her phone to show the county recorder's stamp, the notary seal, and the parcel number in crisp detail.
Recorded in 2023. Lifetime occupancy for Mom. Full ownership to me. No forgery. Just a decision she made. Why? Why would she do that behind my back? Unless you manipulated her? She kept it secret because she knew you'd react exactly like this. You proved her right. You turned our own mother against me. This house was supposed to be our inheritance, not yours. She still thinks this is about money. It's about trust. And she never had it. I'm not discussing this further. You can call a lawyer if you want, but the deed will hold. This isn't over. I'll get my half of this house even if I have to fight you in court.
The door slammed behind her. Ava stood motionless in the sudden quiet, her face unreadable. She picked up her phone and typed with deliberate slowness, each word a calculated strike. The deed has been mine since 2023. Mom asked me not to tell you. You should ask her why before Friday.
She needs to hear it from Mom herself. Not my accusation, but the truth.
The hospice nurse had marked Sunday as a likely lucid window, Margaret's last chance to speak. Ava climbed the stairs and found Margaret awake, her eyes clearer than they'd been in weeks.
Mom, I had to tell Rebecca about the deed. She'll come Sunday to talk to you.
Good. It's time she knew.
Margaret's hand trembled as she reached for Ava's, but her grip was firm.
Please hold on until Sunday. One more conversation and then you can rest.
They sat together as the afternoon light softened, the house holding its breath for the reckoning 2 days away. Sunday morning arrived cold and clear. Rebecca's sedan pulled into the driveway at 9 a.m., far too early. Upstairs, the hospice nurse had propped Margaret against pillows. Her eyes were sharp, but her body was weightless under the blankets. Ava heard Rebecca's footsteps on the stairs, hesitant, stalling on every other step.
Mom, you wanted to see me?
Close the door. Sit down.
In the hallway, Ava pressed her shoulder against the wall, listening to the scrape of a chair and the long exhale of her mother gathering strength.
Do you remember the boyfriend you had in 2019? The one who wanted to invest?
That was years ago. Why are you?
Because that's the reason you're not on my deed. Now listen carefully.
Ava closed her eyes. The story she'd known in fragments was about to become the full, brutal truth, and there was no stopping it now. In the fall of 2019, Margaret had been healthier, but the pressure had started the moment Rebecca brought her new boyfriend home.
Mom, it's a guaranteed investment. We just need $90,000 against the house. You'll get it back with interest next year.
The boyfriend, a man with an expensive watch and no job history, had nodded earnestly beside her.
I won't risk this house for a scheme. This is your childhood home, Rebecca, not a bank.
Rebecca's face had twisted, not with disappointment, but with entitlement.
I knew then that if you could pressure me to refinance then, you'd find another way to monetize this house later. When I got sick, I realized you'd see my dying as an opportunity, so I gave the house to someone who would protect it.
You never trusted me. All these years you watched me like a thief.
I love you, Rebecca, but love isn't handing over the deed to someone who already tried to take it.
Rebecca's legs gave out. She sank onto the edge of the bed, her sobs swallowed by the oxygen machine's hum.
I only regret that you made this goodbye so hard, and that greed robbed you of grace.
Mom, I'm sorry I was wrong. I was so wrong.
Margaret's face flickered with something that might have been regret, but then she turned to the window, dismissing the plea.
There's nothing more I can say, Rebecca. You have your answer. Now let me rest. Please.
Rebecca's sobs were wet and desperate, but she stumbled backward, her shoulder hitting the doorframe hard. In the hallway, Ava didn't move. Her own tears had dried long before, replaced by a hollow ache she couldn't name. Hours later, the monitors screeched a warning. Margaret's oxygen had dropped into the 60s and kept falling. Ava was at the bedside in seconds, her voice cracking as she called her mother's name over and over.
Mom, you kept your promise. Now I need you to keep fighting, please.
But Margaret's eyes remained closed, her breath a faint hiss, and the nurse gently pulled Ava away, murmuring it was time. 3 days later, Margaret slipped away under the soft hum of the oxygen machine, Ava's hand wrapped gently around hers.
She promised me this house, and I promised to keep it safe. That's all I have left to do now.
The funeral was a small gathering, autumn leaves skittering across the damp grass as the casket lowered. Rebecca stood apart in a plain black dress, eyes red-rimmed, not once meeting Ava's gaze.
She looks like a stranger. Maybe she's been one for longer than I wanted to admit.
After the service, Ava met with the estate attorney in a wood-paneled office smelling of old paper. He confirmed that the quitclaim deed removed the house from probate entirely. It was hers, unassailable.
No fight. No contest. Mom made sure of it.
That evening, Ava unlocked the front door to an empty house. The silence was absolute, but it belonged to her. For the first time, she stood in the hallway and felt the house not as a hospice, but as a home she had finally earned. In the weeks that followed, Ava cleared out the hospice room, the bed, the tubing, the bottles.
Every box I taped shut felt like shedding a grief I didn't know I carried.
She hauled the last supplies to the garage, then went downstairs to strip the basement suite. Under blankets, she found the Airbnb guest book, a leather volume of cheerful notes from oblivious families.
They called it charming. They raved about the private entrance. No one knew the homeowner was dying overhead.
She tossed it in a donation box, then spotted a photo frame, her and Rebecca at the lake, arms linked. Behind it, a cardboard box labeled Ava and Rebecca, 1990s in Margaret's handwriting.
Inside, letters from Rebecca's first apartment, full of inside jokes and promises to be each other's soft place.
She sat on the basement floor, the window's light falling on pages of a sister she once knew, and she cried quietly.
I can't forgive her yet, but I can stop letting her poison this house. It's mine now to make warm again.
Ava called Rebecca the next morning, her voice level, offering her one chance to collect anything personal from the house.
Fine, I'll come, but don't expect me to thank you for what you've taken.
An hour later, Rebecca stood in the living room, eyes darting over the rearranged furniture and the fresh coat of paint.
I didn't ask you here to rehash the past. Take what's yours and leave. What's mine? You made sure I got nothing, Ava. This house was supposed to be our legacy. Mom chose me because I chose her first. That's not theft, it's consequence.
Rebecca snatched a small box of old letters from the coffee table and turned away without another word. The door slammed, and through the window, Ava watched her sister's car speed down the street, a trail of dust in its wake.
She left her childhood letters. I'll keep them safe, like everything else in this house.
That afternoon, she called a locksmith and had every lock in the house replaced, sealing the home she'd won. Airbnb's final email arrived on a quiet Tuesday. The fraud case closed. Rebecca's account banned indefinitely, all residual funds refunded to guests. Ava read it twice, then deleted it. The last external thread tying her to Rebecca's scheme was gone.
No lawsuit came. Rebecca's threats had dissolved over months. Even she knew the law was a wall she couldn't climb.
The living room had transformed. New curtains, a gallery wall of Margaret's watercolors, the furniture rearranged to catch the evening light.
It smells like paint and fresh coffee now, not antiseptic and dying. This is my home.
In the kitchen, she opened her laptop again and stared at the scanned deed. The parcel number crisp and permanent.
I could frame this. Not as a weapon, but as a promise kept.
She closed the laptop and walked through the house, touching walls, feeling the silence like a second heartbeat.
The battle is over. I own this house, and no one can take it from me. Mom knew.
That night, she curled up on the sofa, finally able to exhale, the weight of the fight lifting like morning fog. She pried the welcome sign from its brackets, the plastic brittle from sun and deceit. In its place, she mounted a small ceramic plaque that said home in scripted glaze. She stepped back. The house looked different now, as though it exhaled alongside her. Inside, she drifted through the rooms, trailing her fingers along freshly painted walls, touching the banister, the door frames. In the kitchen junk drawer, she found the printed Airbnb listing she'd saved as evidence months ago.
Rebecca's name at the top still stung, but only faintly, like a scar left in the open.
She carried the page through the hall, past the basement door, to the blue recycling bin beside the garage. She held the page over the open bin, the paper trembled with the tension in her fingers.
For the first time, it wasn't a weapon. It was just a piece of paper I could finally let go.
She paused there, suspended between holding on and letting go, breathing into the quiet house. Her fingers opened. The printed listing slipped from her grip, fluttering once before settling into the bin. It landed atop yesterday's newspaper, Rebecca's name already smudging against the ink. Ava stared down at it for 2 full breaths, then straightened her spine and turned away. She climbed the stairs and entered the empty hospice room, now clean and painted white. The window was open, gauze curtains stirring, and beyond it, the neighborhood softened into dusk.
For months, this view meant waiting for the end. Now it felt like the start of something I chose.
A small, private smile touched her lips. No triumph, just the quiet relief of a completed task.
Mom would have wanted this. Not the fight, but the peace afterward.
She stayed by the glass, feeling the old house settle around her like a promise kept. Outside, the last light bled from the sky. Inside, the silence was finally just silence. She flicked the basement light switch and descended one final time. The suite was now storage boxes stacked where the bed had been, the lockbox gone.
The couple from that day probably found another rental by now. Their luggage, their confusion, something I barely think about anymore. I still see Rebecca's face sometimes, the shock, the frantic denial. Not with anger anymore, just a kind of tired recognition.
She hadn't come down here seeking ghosts. She'd come to be sure there were none left.
I kept my promise. The house is safe. She'd be proud.
The furnace rumbled to life, a deep, comforting hum that vibrated through the concrete. She gave the room a final glance, then climbed the stairs, one hand on the railing. At the top, she shut off the light and closed the basement door. Behind her, the basement settled into darkness, just another storage space in a house that no longer held any secrets. During a quiet evening, she opened an old book on Margaret's shelf and found a sealed envelope with her name on it. The paper was thin and smelled faintly of lavender. Margaret had written it after the deed, dated 2 years ago.
My dear Ava, if you're reading this, then I'm already gone. I hope you fill this house with laughter again. I never doubted your strength, not once. The house was always safest with you. Love, Mom.
She knew I'd need to hear this. Even after everything, she left me one last gift.
She carried the letter downstairs and placed it inside the deed folder, next to the notarized promise that had started it all.
The deed kept the house standing. This letter will remind me why it matters.
She closed the folder and slid it into the kitchen drawer where she kept the house keys and Margaret's old teacup.
The house wasn't just property anymore. It was a promise fulfilled, a trust kept across time.
Ava stood in the quiet kitchen, and for the first time the house felt not like a burden, but like a gift her mother knew she could carry. The next morning, Ava carried a can of teal paint and a brush to the front porch. She taped the edges and began to brush the color Margaret had loved, a warm coastal teal.
It's the exact shade she picked for the kitchen once. Every stroke feels like a conversation.
From across the street, a neighbor walking a dog paused and raised a hand in greeting. Ava lifted her brush in greeting, and the smile that came was easy, unforced. The house wasn't the place where her mother had died anymore. It was becoming the place where Ava's mornings began. Inside, she filled a clear jug with water and set a cluster of sunflowers on the kitchen table.
Fresh flowers. Mom always said they made a room feel less empty.
She stepped back onto the porch to let the door dry, paintbrush still in hand, and looked at her work. The teal door glowed against the white trim. For the first time, the house looked like it belonged entirely to her future. Ava's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, the screen lighting up with Rebecca's name for the first time in months.
I'd never blocked her number. Part of me still listened for the sister I used to know. Hello? I've been seeing a therapist. I want to apologize for everything. Can we meet? Just to talk? I appreciate you saying that, but I'm not ready to sit across from you yet. Maybe one day, but not now. I understand. I'll wait. Take all the time you need.
The line clicked. Ava set the phone down, her fingers steady.
There was no guilt, only the quiet recognition that some wounds heal better with distance.
She walked to the kitchen window. The teal door gleamed in the afternoon sun, a small monument to renewal. The house held its peace. The boundary she'd set wasn't a refusal to forgive, it was a promise to protect what she'd rebuilt. She carried Margaret's old teacup to the porch, its chip familiar against her palm, and lowered herself onto the front steps. The air was cool with autumn, the sky fading from orange to deep blue, and the streetlights began to flicker on.
This was how we used to end our days together, tea, silence, and the slow blink of streetlights.
Across the street, the neighbor's porch light bloomed, then another, until the whole block was studded with soft gold.
I sat here for months, searching for hospice fans. Now I watch for nothing and everything.
The teal door behind her caught the last light, a shadow now, but one she'd chosen.
The house is mine. Not a battleground, not a crime scene, just a home where tea gets cold while I think.
She pulled her cardigan tighter and leaned her head against the porch railing, a gesture her mother had done 100 times. The neighborhood hummed with dinner dishes and distant television, the ordinary soundtrack of a life reclaimed. And in the quiet of that dusk, she let herself feel it all. The grief, the fury, the victory, and then gently let it go. Some inheritances aren't written in banks. They're written in deeds drafted in secret, in promises whispered in a lawyer's office, in a mother's foresight. A wise woman once said that the safest place for a home is in the hands of someone who has already proven they will protect it. Ava didn't just inherit a house. She inherited a trust that had been waiting for her to be strong enough to carry it. The listing that once advertised a betrayal was now recycling bin filler. The sister who had rented her mother's dying had learned that greed cannot outpace a mother's love. And on that porch, beneath the teal door she'd painted herself, Ava discovered what Margaret had always known. Peace doesn't always come from victory. Sometimes, it comes from keeping a promise. The screen fades slowly to black.